Good morning, gentlemen, and we'll get started here in just a second. This is Kay Schendel, and give us a little bit here to get started, and we'll be ready to go. We'll give it another minute and we'll go ahead and get started. So please feel free to tune into your screen, and just one more minute and we'll start the broadcast. Well, good morning. This is Kay Schendel. I'm the Director of Global Initiatives for Delta Upsilon, and I think we're going to go ahead and get started this morning, so we're using your time well as mine. It's morning here in cold Wisconsin, and I hope wherever you're joining us from is much warmer than here and a lot less sleet and fog. So today we're going to talk a little bit about mentoring. And you'll see in front of you that we've got a little PowerPoint. This will also be available on a recording after we're finished. And of course, as usual, I would welcome additional discussion or dialogue with any of you that want to talk a little bit more about mentoring as we go along. I will share that this has been an interest of mine for many years, and I've presented on this topic at several national conferences, and always felt that we need to think about why mentoring is important. I really believe that mentoring is a critical component to student success. And one of the things an advisor can do is assist chapter members in finding those mentoring relationships and recognizing that mentoring really matters. And so hopefully what you're going to learn here in the next 20 minutes or so is the basics of how to encourage chapter members to develop these important mentoring relationships. And perhaps you're going to even be able to learn how you might be a mentor to some of the men that you're currently advising in the chapter without really even knowing it. You know, through the years, we have seen a lot of mentoring relationships in movies and in the media and in social media that we come in contact with. And I put together a few images here that might bring a few laughs for you, that might spark some memories of these great movies where mentors really have played an important part in people's lives. And so just some images for you to start thinking about. But I wonder if you've really thought about what the power of a mentor is. Have you ever really pondered how many people there are in your life that have had some level of influence upon you that have helped you become who you are today? The reality is that most mentoring relationships are very informal, and the mentor may hardly even know that they've had a profound influence on the individual. The reality is that most of us have acquired a core set of values from our parents, our relatives, and those friends and brothers that we've been with early on in our life. And they've helped us shape our work ethic, our self-image, they've helped us form perceptions of others. They've helped us determine whether or not we're optimists or pessimists. And whether or not we realize it, we know that there are the fingerprints of countless people that are all over us and that have helped shape us into what we are today. I have a mentor. In fact, I have several mentors, and one of my mentors doesn't even know that he's a mentor, and he's really active on social media and provides life lessons and tips that come in the form of an email an email from this man, and he sends this to me and to many others, and he sends tips on life and leadership, and they come in this short email communique. And I've really loved receiving these through the years, and in fact, I've never even met this man. But here's some of the things that he has taught me, and some of the things that I've learned from him, a man that I've never met who I really consider to be a mentor. He's taught me about insights that I didn't even know. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is mentors pass along information or perspectives which we gathered over the years, and they've been able to offer us insight into things that we don't even know that we should be thinking about. The mentor that I'm talking about that sends these communiques regularly to me has also shown me blind spots I couldn't see. You see, here's the thing about mentors. Mentors can be completely objective, and if we allow them, they can point out attitudes or behaviors which, left uncorrected, can cause us some harm or do some damage. And so I think what I've been able to do by reading these weekly a bit about things that I don't even realize are my character flaws. Another thing this power of a mentor has over me is that he shows me strengths that I haven't even developed. You know, it seems kind of like a minor thing, but oftentimes when I receive an email that offers up some insight or some knowledge, what I'm able to do is see areas that I need to improve in and see disciplines upon which I need to build. And then finally, I believe that the power of this mentor really gets me to understand the potential that I never understood. And so I think that's really important for you to realize is that oftentimes in this advisor role that you all play within the chapter, you're being a mentor without really even knowing it. So let's take a look here at what is mentoring. And I've offered up a couple definitions of what mentoring for the mentor connection. He says that mentoring is the pairing of an individual who has expert knowledge or skill with someone desiring to gain that knowledge or skill in order to further develop professional expertise. I think when Michael is talking about this, he's talking about a more formal mentoring partnership than what I just mentioned in the mentor that doesn't even know that he's a mentor to me. And Warren Bennis, a noted leadership expert, and Bert Nanis say, a mentor really is a new leader. It's one who commits people to action, who converts followers into leaders, and who may like both those definitions of mentoring and think that those are things that you can consider as you go forth with your advising relationships with chapters. John Crosbie offers another definition that's more glib, and he says mentoring is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction. So what I'd like you to do for a second is think about somebody who's been or is a mentor to you. Think for a second about why they are important, what qualities did they have, and what did they do that was helpful. And I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. More right now about a formal mentoring relationship that I entered into, and want you to start thinking a little bit about what those relationships might look like to you. So back when I was in high school, which now I can't even believe that I can even remember this, I was enrolling as a freshman at the University of Wisconsin, River Falls. And at the time, I attended, like many freshmen, at the end of my senior year of high school, the new student orientation / registration day. And at that day, I met the assistant dean of students at UW River Falls. His name was Dr. William Munns. And I think my mentoring relationship informally began with Dr. Munns at that time, but continued really throughout my career until he died. What I realized was the importance of finding a mentor early on that would help me think about my career choices, help me think about the direction I wanted to go, and help me think about decisions that I needed to make. Why were they important in my life, or why was Dr. Munns important in my life? He was important because he provided me with options, he challenged me, and he student development is thinking about challenge and support. The qualities that he had that made him an awesome mentor, and why I remember him all these years later, is that he was also able to be there in very subtle ways. So I'll tell you that indirectly, he influenced my career to become a student affairs professional. And what he did that was very helpful in that was really he modeled the way. He showed me why it was important to think about careers in student affairs, and why it was important to be engaged in a dialogue about helping students develop. Now I'm going to share with you a completely different mentoring relationship. I've shared with you one where the individual doesn't even know that they're my mentor, one where clearly Dr. Munns knew he was my mentor, and then finally the third one that I'll share with you is a mentoring relationship that I've had for the last 11 years with who then was a new professional at Longwood University, where we literally entered into a professional mentoring relationship, and we even went so far as to draw up a contract. And so those are some examples of mentoring that you can think of when you think about how you're going to advise the men that you work with, and think about how you might enter into a formal mentoring relationship with them. So we talked a little bit at the onset of this program about why we should encourage our men to get a mentor. And I want to share with you some of the reasons why I think mentoring is important for our chapter members to engage in. And they can engage in this, again, either formally or informally. I believe it's incredibly important because it helps them develop new skills. It helps them have a relationship with someone who typically is older than they are, who typically can, like I mentioned before, challenge and support them, who typically can help them pave the way in making decisions, and can be there as a sounding board for them in their career. And so thinking about mentoring and thinking about the men that we advise and work with, it becomes really critical to encourage them to think about how do they engage that mentor. And they can either approach somebody, it could be a faculty member, it could be an academic advisor, it could be you. It could be another advisor with the chapter, it could be other alumni to the chapter, it could be a fraternity or sorority advisor. But it's important for you to think about the importance of encouraging our chapter members to get a mentor outside of the relationship that they have with you as an advisor. So here's some do's and some practical advice to think about when you think about being a mentor. You really do need to think about how do you challenge and how do you motivate, inspire, and encourage that individual. And that means, I believe, doing a whole lot more listening than talking. It means asking probing questions. I think it's important for you to recognize that for a mentoring relationship to develop, you need to be incredibly patient and you need to build trust with that individual. And that takes time, and that takes time over a period of days, sometimes years. It's also important for you when you listen to what the person wants to talk about is to offer alternate perspectives. So you might say, well, if this, if not this, then this. And you might want to think about how you offer up ideas that you want to share with them. It's also important that you encourage self-directed reflection, analysis, and problem solving. And what does that look like? Well, that often looks like asking them to do some homework before they come back to talk to you again, to reflect on the issues that they're pondering or the decisions that they're trying to make, and that you're incorporating some of that challenge and inspiration into that. And then critical to the mentoring relationship, for me, that was the advantage of the formal relationship, the formal mentoring relationship that I mentioned earlier, is that we establish clear boundaries within the contract. And like I said, we actually drew up a physical contract to outline the boundaries within where a relationship would go. What might this look like? This might look like, what time can you get together? When can this mentor call you? How available are you going to be to work with them? What are topics that are off limits? Or what are topics that you really want to talk about? So some ideas about what are some do's about moving from being an advisor and going along a continuum through coaching, and then really reaching what I'll call that pinnacle of the continuum, which is educating, and providing that education to that mentee, or sometimes called a protege, of, you know, topics and ideas that you want to talk about and things that you want to share with them. Oftentimes it's hard to get an individual to understand what are the benefits of being a mentor. And I gave you 4 ideas here, and I'm going to briefly run through these. Hard time convincing chapter members the importance of being others of being a mentor. Some of the benefits that you can find from being a mentor would be that you're going to gain some personal satisfaction through this leadership development experience and through enriching the mentees. You're going to be able to give back through the development of leaders for the future by personally and professionally supporting their growth. And I think one of the things that you'll gain as a mentor benefit from being a mentor is you'll enhance your coaching, feedback, and existing leadership skills. And then finally, I think being a mentor offers exposure to new and different thinking styles, knowledge, and perspectives. And I think those are all just really great benefits of why you should think about engaging in being a mentor or encouraging other alumni that are working with you to be mentors of the chapter. So when you enter into that relationship with an individual that you're going to mentor, there's some also or being a protege. And I think it's important for you to communicate as the mentor to the mentee what these do's are. And first and foremost is that the mentee needs to be committed. They really need to be committed to the relationship, and they need to be committed to having intentional, well-structured dialogue with the mentor. They also need to be willing to question and reflect on the conversations that they have. And that really leads to the next point, which is you have to be willing as a mentee to communicate openly. You can't offer up 80% of the truth and with mentor to be providing you with good advice and good suggestions and good challenge and good support. A mentee really has to be open-minded to new opportunities, new experiences, and different ideas. And again, that's inherent in the mentor-mentee relationship and really a part of the importance of building trust. And finally, they need to be willing to accept feedback and to be willing to learn from the feedback that's been provided. Along with some do's, of course, there's some don'ts of being a mentor, of being a mentee. And I think the biggest don't, and one of the things especially I think students today think that they're going to come out with a job offer or come out with a potential work experience or a life-changing experience. It's so important for the mentee to not have unrealistic expectations of what this relationship is all about. And so I think it's important to be clear about that. I also think that a mentee can't neglect the commitments without explanation. So if there's an agreed upon meeting time, what this might look like, if there's an agreed upon time that you're going to gather every month or every other week or every week, and the mentee can't make it, they need to make sure that they're offering up an explanation and make sure that And then the mentee needs to not be afraid to contact the mentor if they haven't heard from them in a while. And unfortunately, sometimes mentors, like mentees, often can come and go in a relationship. And so it's important for the mentee to know that there isn't this imbalance in the relationship. One doesn't have power or authority over the other, and that there needs to be this willingness to be able to pick up the phone and call them if necessary. So let's talk a little bit about the benefits of being a mentee. We talked about being a mentee. I think clearly we talked about the leadership and the understanding of leadership as it relates to professional and personal development. The reality is that mentees can learn an awful lot from mentors and can really hone their leadership skills and really refine some of the information that they need to go on to be successful and productive in today's society. Coupled with that, I believe that they can learn the meaning and application of leadership skills in a variety of environments, such as the workplace and public, through the eyes and experiences of leaders with diverse backgrounds. What we need to remember as mentors is we come to the table with experiences that typically far outweigh those of whom we're mentoring. And those experiences offer a wealth of information and knowledge that lead to some great conversations that can happen and some great leadership skill development that can happen because of those diverse backgrounds and experiences that we bring to the table. Tied with that is professionals for guidance in time management, communication, and networking skills. And I think that's important for you to understand too, is that oftentimes our mentees are looking for assistance in these areas, in particular in time management, communication, and networking, and they want you to help them understand how to be better in those areas. And then I think one of the things is that I have found by being a mentee is that I have developed skills and knowledge to become a better mentor to others. And I think it's by watching others mentor me that I've learned how to be both a good mentor and also to be a good mentee. So one of the things that is really hard when you're thinking about this mentor-mentee relationship is, well, what do you talk about? And how do you start the dialogue? And I've got 5 points there that are some of the initial things that you can talk about. You can see on the right-hand side, I've built a pyramid where I've got at the top of that the contract, and I talked about that relationship, that mentor-mentee relationship that I've had in the past where there was actually a contractual agreement. But there can also be, that also doesn't have to be there, and there can just be goals for the relationship. And most importantly, of course, is going back to that establishing boundaries. I think some of the first things you need to talk about are the expectations to which you're going to offer guidance concerning both personal and professional issues are. If you're not comfortable in having conversations about personal issues, then you need to say so, and you need to clearly articulate that as a boundary. I think it's also important for both you and the mentee to discuss what are your common goals and what are the focus of the what should the focus of the relationship be, and discuss what you can offer in terms of information and skills and experience and advice. And then perhaps most importantly is discuss how you're going to interact. That means you need to determine how you're going to meet. Are you going to meet and have coffee? Are you going to meet via telephone every week? That relationship that I told you that I had with the contractual person at Longwood University, we had a standing phone call every week for 3 years when she was first new in the profession, and it happened every Friday. And that phone call was seldom interrupted, and we just reserved that time on our calendar and said, this is a time that we're not going to schedule anything over, and it's a time that's carved out just for us. And the other thing you should talk about with your mentee is any questions or concerns that either one of you have. It's important for you both to understand what those questions might be. So I thought it might be useful to give you some mentoring activity ideas. One of the things you can do is provide direction to or a list of relevant books or web resources or articles or other items that you might have that you have in your toolbox that you can bring out that might help this person further develop. So for example, there's several books that I keep on my bookshelf, and I'm looking up at them right now. If you were in my office right now, I'd say, and you were my mentee, I would say, you know, one of the books that I think you need to get your hands on these days is XYZ. And so looking at kind of the resources that you have, or loan them the book, or point them to articles, or send them articles that you get as a result of your work. This really means that what you're going to become is a resource broker, and you're going to provide them with resources that they're going to try on. The mentee will try on, and if they fit, great, and if they don't fit, they can discard. And you need to feel free to make sure that they know that they can try these on for size and see what works for them. Oftentimes, what this mentoring-mentee relationship looks like is also providing opportunities for individuals to job shadow, or opportunities for them to you in the workplace, and it need to be one of the things that you're comfortable with. They may request, or you may want to offer resume assistance and long-term career guidance to the individual, or you may want to make a referral. In some cases, and most cases on college campuses, career services is a service that's offered typically for free or available at low cost, and so offer a referral to career services. And then providing some professional networking assistance. Maybe you're involved in a professional association or something that you can help them make further connections. Say if they're an engineer in the field of engineering, or they're going into a medical profession. And finally, you can recommend developmental activities. Maybe there's something in the community that you've come across that would be beneficial for them to participate in, and you can encourage them to attend, and you can also encourage them to go with you to some of those professional development activities. Further, you can think about training and educational opportunities, and oftentimes that might look like a speaker on campus or a speaker at your local library or within the community. You can invite them to attend a related activity, and you can also suggest methods for advancing the mentee's growth. That might look like doing some actual homework prior to the next meeting, or might look like doing a mutual reading together and having a discussion. You can communicate with the mentee or have a discussion with the mentee, some of the experiences and challenges that you've had as a leader, both in your profession and personally. And again, like I mentioned before, attend business events together. And then finally, think about providing them with feedback to the questions that they have, and making certain in everything that you do that you acknowledge areas in which you don't have the skills and be willing to make referrals to other resources. So that gives you a fairly comprehensive list of things that you can do during your mentor-mentee relationship. I'm going to close with a quote, and this truthfully comes from the mentor that I have that doesn't even know he's my mentor. And he put in a communique about 5 years ago, you'll know you have arrived when your relationship really becomes a give and take. And I think that that's important for you to understand and be aware of, is that at some point this relationship will change, and it won't be necessarily the role of mentor-mentee, but will become more of a relationship that there's a push-pull effect. And I like thinking about that as we go forward into the mentoring relationship. So here's some don'ts, and I think that's important for you to hear too. Don't simply provide solutions to the problems that they come to you with, but make sure that you advise them and identify resources to assist them in making their own decisions. Also, don't feel that it's your responsibility for the mentee to be a success. Rather, think about how you provide feedback, and the feedback might be on job searching, or it might be on networking, or it might be on different strategies and how to succeed. Another big don't is don't offer, and I put this in quotes, personal counseling or life coaching that's not related to professional or personal development. Don't neglect agreed upon commitments without explanation. Equally as important for you as a mentor as for them as a mentee, so make sure. And don't hesitate to contact your mentee if you haven't heard from them in a while. It's important for you to recognize that if you haven't heard from them either, you can pick up the phone, or you can send a text or an email to make sure. I'd sure like to thank you for participating, and I hope what I provided today was some background knowledge about mentoring and how to be a good mentor and how to be a good mentee. I have tons of resources available. I put my email down there. I've got some great reading resources if you'd like those. You can feel free to contact me at shendel@deltau.org if you'd like some of those resources. I'd be happy to email them to you. But again, I'll take any questions. I'll wait about a minute to see if there are any questions at this time, and if not, I'll go ahead and close the webinar. Are there any questions? The question that came from Mark, and Mark said, I believe another benefit of a mentor is equipping the mentee to himself become a mentor to others later in life. And I agree. I totally agree. And I think I mentioned that, Mark, in some of the comments, that it's equally as important for you to model the way and to show to show mentees just what being a mentor is, and that really goes with that pay it forward piece. And so I think that that's incredibly important for you to realize. So I appreciate that, and thank you so much for that question. Jamie, I see that you have your hand up. What's up? Just saying hi. Okay, well, I am going to go. Wait, there is a question that just came in from Jamie. Can you define personal counseling a little bit more? Yeah, Jamie, I'd be happy to do that. I think sometimes, especially when there are numerous mental health concerns with the mentee, that sometimes you can cross a line from really helping them with personal and professional development to helping them with incredibly personal issues that might be related to depression, might be related to suicidal tendencies, might be related to some significant psychological issues that clearly you might not be in a position to handle. And so I think it's important for you to recognize when that crosses a line and when you need to be able to refer that person to professional counseling. Certainly, I think it's important to listen to some of those concerns, but it becomes incredibly difficult if you're not trained as a counselor to then act as that role of counselor in that mentoring relationship. So I think, again, it's really important for you to set some clear boundaries and really think about that. I hope that answered that question for you, Jamie. Looking to see if there's any more questions, and I don't see any. Again, I'd like to thank you all for attending this webinar and would really welcome the dialogue with you about mentoring and the importance of mentoring. Feel free to give me a holler or shout out. I know a lot of you that are on the webinar today, so thank you very much for attending. Have a fabulous Thanksgiving, everybody, and a great rest of your year. And finally, thank you for all that you do to advise our chapters. Without you, our chapters wouldn't be as successful as they are. So thank you very much. Have a great day, gentlemen.